Okay, recording on. Heart Sutra I've got ready. 3 deep breaths. Okay, hold on for a second. And let's see, Zoom optimized for video and share sound. Got that. Okay, I'm Reverend Scott, and I'm going to talk to you about something. I gave it a title, which I don't understand, but it doesn't matter how you get there. Enjoy it while you can. And I've been struggling with something for quite some time. And I've just been kind of sitting with it for, oh God, probably better part of a year or two now, and just waiting until something happened. And somehow a few disparate ideas have kind of come together and sort of gelled. And the 4 ideas that I'm going to attempt to tie together this morning are sailing in the British Virgin Islands, Pure Land Buddhism, the Heart Sutra, and Marguerite Porete. So let's see if this works. We shall see. So I don't know if many of you know, but I used to actually work on a sailboat in the Caribbean. And for some reason, it kind of occurred to me that the other day that when you're sailing in the Caribbean, people don't really pay too much attention to what kind of boat you're on. There's not that kind of competitiveness. It's just a way to get around. And yes, those are my toes there. And when you're there, it's easy to really just be in the moment and enjoy what you're surrounded with, because it's just so intensely beautiful. And yeah, believe it or not, I got paid to do this. So why I ever left that job, I have no idea. But the point here is that it's a very easy place to not worry about how you get there. That people come in boats in all different shapes and sizes, and small to large, monohulls, catamarans, luxurious, not so luxurious. But it really just doesn't matter. I mean, you're in the Caribbean and you can enjoy, it's really easy to enjoy the present moment and just where you are and the nature and the camaraderie when you're surrounded by so much beauty, and not really dwell on how you got there. Shifting gears to Pure Land Buddhism. This is something that I have been trying to figure out for years, because in Pure Land Buddhism, which is a big part of the lineage of this temple, you'll notice on the altar, when the camera is pointed towards the altar, the 3 statues there are the Pure Land 3 statues, Amitabha Buddha, front and center. And a huge part of the practice of Pure Land is chanting. And hopefully you can all hear this, but I will play this for you. Now note actually I can't see you all, so I don't know whether you heard that or not, but it was a beautiful chant of Amida Buddha. The interesting thing to note here is the time. YouTube will show you how long the videos. This one is 12 hours long. Kind of makes my head explode. Is a part of the belief of Pure Land is that if you chant to the Amitabha Buddha, who it's said was the one who taught Shakyamuni Buddha, that if you chant the name with your full heart, that you will end up in Western paradise after you die, something like that. I'm not too conversant on Pure Land Buddhism, and that's what they do. It's a very prevalent practice, I believe, particularly in China. It's the dominant practice, and the Vietnamese community with which we're surrounded here in Portland metro area. That is, I think, for the most part, exclusively their practice, which confuses me because when I teach my Buddhism 101 class, one of the very first things that I tell people is, don't listen to anything that I say. Seriously, and I probably tell the class that a half dozen times. And I quote not once but twice a passage from the Kalama Sutra, which I'll paraphrase, where the Buddha is talking to the Kalamas, which is a group of people in India way back when. He says to them, "Do not go upon what has been acquired by repeated hearing, or tradition, or rumor, um, or consideration that the monk is our teacher." What he's saying there is, don't believe it just because I'm saying it. When you yourselves know these things are good, blameless, praised by the wise, undertaken and observed, these things lead to benefit and happiness, enter on and abide in them. He says this again, kind of a little differently. The Buddha said in clear words, "Come, Kalamas, do not accept anything merely because it has been heard repeatedly. According to scripture, the presentation is pleasant and attractive." Again, he's referring to himself. Or the speaker's personality is very attractive. Again, he's talking about himself. The speaker is venerated by us, referring to teachers. And then continues on to say, "The truth, which you know by your own experience, that these qualities are skillful, blameless, and our welfare and happiness lies in practicing these qualities. You should accept only this much." So I've been having a hard time reconciling the practice of Pure Land, which seems a little faith-based, shall we say, with this passage in the Kalama Sutra, where the Buddha clearly tells people, just go by your own experience of what the teachings are and practice, what works for you. So I've been kind of struggling with reconciling that for some years. And then we come shifting gears once again, coming to the Heart Sutra here. I won't read the whole thing, but there are two parts here that kind of became meaningful for me in my quest to sort this all out. The first is the great supreme mantra, which ends all suffering: Gate Gate Pada Gate Pada Samgate Bodhisvaha, which means going across, going all the way across, everybody all going away across the river of samsara, the river of suffering, life, which gets a little bouncy at times, hence the metaphor of the river. And we were crossing the river on a raft. This is tying into the first part of this, sailing around in the British Virgin Islands. In our practice, it doesn't seem wise to compare rafts, like my raft is better than your raft. That kind of thinking really only just leads to suffering, because that's an attachment. And one thing in the Heart Sutra that really hit me like a ton of bricks when I realized what it was saying is the short little passage, no suffering, no cause, no cessation, no path, no knowledge, no attainment. Now, I have a funny feeling that I probably read or chanted the Heart Sutra 100 times before it even dawned on me what these two lines were all about. No suffering, no cause, no cessation, no path, no knowledge, and no attainment. It's not immediately obvious, but the Heart Sutra is talking about the emptiness of the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. When I first realized that, it's like, oh my gosh, how can a religion tell us that its most fundamental teachings are empty? And empty in the Heart Sutra, I use my little mental translator to translate that. I mean, because really, what is emptiness? It's kind of a weird word to use. My little mental translator translates that into don't take it too seriously. I kind of believe that if you take anything too seriously, you can ruin it. So here, the Heart Sutra is telling us that the most fundamental truths of Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, they're great, great tools. Don't take them too seriously. That brings us to Marguerite Porete, who is a French Christian mystic who wrote a book in the 14th century, I think. Is that how that works? And because of this book and the fact that she would not recant it, she was burned at the stake. And I'm going to read you a passage from her book, the first chapter. Of the life made nothing, and the 9 qualities of the soul that lives in this life, and how she wills nothing that comes through means. There is another kind of life, which we call the peace of charity in the life made of nothing. Of this, says love, we will speak by the way of asking a soul. This is a soul that cannot be found by others, a soul saved by faith without works, a soul that is one with love, a soul that does nothing for God, nor gives anything up for God, a soul that cannot be taught, a soul for whom nothing can be taken, and to whom nothing can be given, a soul with no will of her own. Ah, says love, who shall give this soul what she lacks, something that has never been given and never shall be? This soul has 6 wings like the seraphim, and she wills nothing that comes through any intermediary. This is the proper nature of the seraphim. There is no separation between their love and divine love. They receive all things directly. So does this soul. She does not seek divine knowledge from the scholars of the world, but instead despises both the world and herself inwardly. Ah, God, what a vast difference there is between a gift received through some intermediary and a gift received directly from the beloved himself. Now, I must admit, I listened to this book as an audiobook, which was quite a few hours. I got to the end and I realized I didn't have a freaking clue what she was talking about because poetry is way above my pay grade. But then I, of course, do what I usually do and opened up, Google's AI, Gemini, and said, hey, please summarize A Mirror of the Simple Souls for me by Marguerite Porete. And it gave me, and I said, please explain it to me in simple words, because that's what I need. And it gave me a little summary, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks, what this book is all about. And that's when things started coming together. So if you're anything like me, that passage that I just read would probably be pretty meaningless. But imagine you are the 13th century institution of the church. And you read this book and you go, oh my gosh, this is not good for business. For example, What a vast difference there is between a gift received through some intermediary and a gift received directly from the beloved himself. Okay, now put yourself in the shoes of someone higher up in the institution of the church way back when. What she's saying is when you have attained a certain level of spirituality, of connection with God, or enlightenment, or awakening, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same stuff. What she's saying is we don't need the priests and the teachers and the institution of the church and the scriptures and all that kind of stuff. We don't need that anymore because we have connected with the beloved himself. That's not good for church business. Where else? There was another thing in here. And I'm not finding it, but I think you get the idea. Again, I'm not very good with poetry. Yeah, that she wills nothing comes through any intermediary. Again, she's cutting out the middleman here. Once you have become awakened enough, you can let go of all of the dogma. Again, not good for business. And then it occurred to me she was basically saying the same thing as the metaphor of the raft crossing the river. In the Diamond Sutra, chapter 6, it talks of when you cross the river of samsara in your raft, and again, all rafts are totally cool. Whatever raft you're on to get you across to awakening is everyone has their own raft, and doesn't make any sense to go comparing my raft is bigger than your raft. But this message behind that parable in the Diamond Sutra and other places is that when you get to the other shore, don't carry the raft on your back with you. When you get to the shore, leave the raft behind. It's that ties in again with the Heart Sutra, that no suffering, no cause, no cessation, no path, no knowledge, and no attainment. The two most fundamental teachings of Buddhism, when you get to the other shore, these are just tools. You don't have to carry them around with you. So it was just kind of a bizarre experience of struggling with an idea and having all these weird things gel together that, once you kind of get it, you don't have to worry about what raft you're on and what raft somebody else is on. And you don't have to carry that with you once you've reached the other shore. Which then, in realizing that all these things tie together, the idea that Pure Land Buddhism is kind of faith-based, which kind of made my head explode a little bit, even though the Buddha in the Kalama Sutra tells us, yeah, don't listen to what I say. It's just that seeming contradiction doesn't bother me quite so much. So that's kind of the end result of a couple years of all these bizarre ideas kind of forming together. And in letting go of ideas that one raft is better than another, enables you to just, enjoy the journey, enjoy where you're going, enjoying being the present moment, because how you get there just doesn't really matter. Okay. Wow, that sort of kind of came together a little bit, I think. It did for me. I have no idea about you all. Any questions, thoughts, reflections? Yes, Ty.
The studies have shown that repeated chanting actually is a form of meditation. And the long distance, long time chanting apparently creates a meditative state in the listeners where it may not be the same as our sitting meditation, but nonetheless creates an internal aura of peace and letting go of anger, desire, and ignorance. I don't know about being reborn in the Western paradise. That's a little outside my pay range. But I'm so happy that you addressed this. And the Heart Sutra answers many, many, many questions. Thank you, my
I have a question.
Yeah.
Um, the idea that we don't go through an intermediary necessarily is, of course, I mean, that's a Protestant idea too, and one that I'm familiar with and have always liked very much. However, I do wonder, like, if a person's internal compass is really screwed up, you know, like if we're talking about a person who has not had a foundation where their values are what we might like to see, you know, a person who inclines toward violence instead of kindness and so on, who is sort of naturally mean, maybe, then if they rely on their own lights, so to speak, then what? I mean, is
Well,
this good advice for everyone?
this is good advice who have gotten close to or who have gotten to the other shore. It sounds like what you're describing is someone who really needs to be in the raft, which means practicing, learning, teaching, reading the sutras, and paying attention to teachers. Which, if they don't, they will never get to the other shore. But so this is really advice is kind of geared towards thank you, pointing to the moon. These are all just lessons which you can't really let go of until you've truly gotten it. Yeah, you wouldn't want to tell a beginner, yeah, this all stuff isn't important because it's incredibly important. We just can't take it at some point you get to the point where you don't take it so seriously and carry it around with you. Did that did that make any sense? Todd, do you want to elaborate on that? Did I?
friend. It's absolutely true within our tradition that all the talks, don't believe any monk, don't believe any teacher.
I'm hearing you,
Until,
Ty.
pardon?
You cut out there for a minute.
All right, hold on. Don't believe any teacher, don't believe any sutra until it's real for yourself. All teachers can do, as Reverend Scott said, is just point to the moon. When you can see the moon, you don't need the finger pointing there anymore. And so it is the journey of looking within again and again, this fearless moral inventory. Am I jealous? Am I angry? Am I trying to make decisions about stuff that I don't know enough? And anger, desire, and ignorance, as we look at those and we start letting them go and we start just being peaceful without right or wrong, good or bad, we enter this state of that the Buddha talked about of awakening. And that's our goal, to get over Kozen and get real to the heart of just being a person.
That makes sense. That's a great metaphor. Thank you.
Okay. But Reverend Scott, you hit it right, the nail right on the head with the hammer. Good job. And I can't believe you brought up that crazy French mystic who's sort of like drinking wine, just one shot after another. Between her and Rumi, it's hard to imagine they weren't Zen Buddhist.